Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today I got a one card infinite track combo for you. A combo that is actually quite special to me because last summer, after I figured out this combo, I started building my Dozer control deck, which is my personal take on Machina infinite track trains and probably my favorite deck of all time. So now, without further ado, let me show you the centerpiece, really the heart and soul of my Dozer control deck.
So for the combo you either need Harvester, Metal Cruncher, Heavy Forward or Machina Redeployment. I recommend maxing out on all of these because with 12 starters you will have an 85% chance of opening at least one of them going first. To start things off, we normal summon our starter. For the showcase I chose Metal Cruncher, but it might as well be Harvester. Now we use Cruncher's effect to reveal 3 Brutal Dozer, of which we add 1 randomly to our hand. Next we tribute Cruncher to special Dozer. With Dozer we will then summon Trencher so that we can overlay for River Stormer. Accessing River Stormer early is key in this deck because Stormer will net you a +1 every single turn. Here we will use him to search Super Express Bullet Train, who will be in fact our 5th summon, so if we get hit by Nibiru at this point, it do suck, but honestly we at least got access to Stormer. We also have a Trencher in the grave, and because of Bullet Train we get either Dozer or our starter back in the end phase. But let's assume we don't need to deal with the rock today, then we summon Goliath number 1. Next we link our monsters into Ancient Gear Ballista, which will add box, which triggers the box and allows us to add Tunneler. Okay, so far so good. We now summon Tunneler and turn him into Goliath number 2. Then we will use Trencher to revive Dozer, who we will use to summon Goliath number 3. And finally we will summon double-headed Anger Knuckle. Now, when we look into our grave, we have exactly 5 machine monsters that we want to shuffle back with Tunneler. Obviously we don't want to shuffle back Stormer because we need him as a resource. We also don't want to shuffle Dozer or Bullet Train because Bullet will allow us to add back Dozer in the end phase. This only leaves our starters plus all 4 link monster as targets for Tunneler. And even when Harvester is my starter, most of the time I shuffle my starter back. The best thing about these 2 free draws is that you already thinned out your deck a little, which improves your chances to draw into utility cards. In my Dozer control deck here I have about a 50% chance to draw into 1 disruption, a 25% chance to draw into 2 disruptions and a 25% to draw into no disruptions at all.
Now, you might wonder why we summoned Anger Knuckle here. It's because Knuckle in combination with Box and Bullet provides basically an infinite resource loop, assuming that you have infinite box targets. Not only that, Knuckle also allows us to play through multiple disruptions next turn, and if one of the 6 unknown cards in our hand is Derrick Rain, we could summon a fat Super Dora right here. Finally, in the end phase, Bullet Train will trigger and recycle our Brutal Dozer. Alright, let's recap really quick. My one card combo basically draws you 2 cards, provides a small resource loop consisting of Box, Bullet Train and Anger Knuckle, gives you a Brutal Dozer as a follow-up play, and not to forget the combo gives you also River Stormer access, which is one of the most important resources of the track engine.
In our opponent's main one, at one point we want to use Knuckle to discard Box and revive Bullet. Honestly, if my opponent opens decently, then these 2 cards never survive. Either my opponent attacks over Bullet and Knuckle, or we just destroy them ourselves by using cards like Overdrive, Citadel, TT or Nip. So there's almost no way that these 2 guys survive. That's why in our opponent's end phase we can use Bullet Train again to trigger Box a second time. At this point we usually want to add Anchor Drill, though there are some scenarios where it's better to add Trencher, but most of the time Anchor Drill is the pick. Alright, now it's back to us, we draw a card for turn, and what you can see here is the standard 3 card combination for our second turn. Of course at this point we will not only have these 3, instead you will have about 5 to 8 engine cards in your hand, but I'm just gonna show you what you can do with only the cards that the one card combo provided us. The first option you have is a rank 8 play by simply going drill into box, then use drill's effect to level manipulate. When I try to push for game, I often summon Photon Lord here because he protects you from hand traps, and that makes pushing for game a lot more safe. Alternatively, you could also summon Dingirzu here to either send a card or attach one of your banished Infinitracks like Trencher for example to get another plus later on. If you are not pushing for game, then you have the option to go to battle phase to make a 4 material Zeus and wipe the board twice. After that you can discard a card to revive Knuckle, tribute Knuckle for Dozer, get your second Tunneler, and this time you don't need to overlay because we already got Stormer in grave, and now you can really just search for whatever fits the rest of your hand, like you could search a Citadel, a Dairy Crane, or even a Fortress, and then of course we recycle everything, get 2 more draws, go back into the AG link and trigger the box to add the second Trencher. Actually, if you resolve the combo up to this point, I mean you already won the game anyway. Okay, let's go back to the point where we started our second turn, because now I want to show you how you can OTK from this position with only drill and Dozer. For that you normal drill and use this effect to special Dozer, use Dozer to summon your second Trencher, then link one of your level 5s into Goliath, which we will tribute to revive Stormer. After attaching Goliath to Stormer, you can add Citadel, which we're gonna discard to summon Anger Knuckle. To now summon Citadel, we just need to use Anchor Drill's level manipulation effect on Dozer so that we can access Earth Slicer. Slicer can pop 2 cards, we want to pop one of our own cards and 1 card on our opponent's side of the field. In this way Citadel triggers, and finally we can use Trencher to get another 1k damage on board, and yeah, that's over 8k. Before I show you some replays, let me demonstrate that with just these cards you can play through multiple disruptions. For example, we normal summon Drill and he gets hit by a Strike. That do suck, but we can still bring out Knuckle and try to resolve Dozer. Let's say Dozer gets hit by an Ash, then we can still use Stormer to search any machine in our deck. If you're desperate, you could even send Citadel to the grave, make Goliath, crash Goliath and get Citadel on board through 2 disruptions, which is pretty good in my opinion because you got 2 free draws and a decent follow-up just from your 1 card combo.
The match that I'm going to show you now is not the most competitive one, but it perfectly shows what happens when Dozer control is able to pop off. We are going first and our hand looks honestly really nice. We got Metal Cruncher, Heavy Forward, 2 hand traps and Overdrive. Overall a very balanced hand, I would say. So we start our turn by summoning Metal Cruncher and we use him to grab one of the trains. We do that only because we already have access to Dozer in form of Heavy Forward. Next we are of course resolving Dozer to go into Stormer, and we usually would add Bullet Train here, but since we already have him we can search Dairy. We literally just do every single step that I explained earlier. We go into the Ancient Gear link, we grab Box and Tunneler, and eventually we summon Anger Knuckle. Now because we added Dairy Crane earlier, we will use Knuckle to revive Bullet and overlay for Super Dora. As you can see, we already got 4 disruptions, but can we draw into the 5th disruption with Tunneler? Unfortunately not, but nonetheless we can still use redeployment to search Fortress and the 3rd Overdrive. Here I'm actually going to use Overdrive to recycle my banished Infinitracks. I feel kind of pressured to do it here because you can only use 1 Overdrive effect once per turn, so if I don't do it now then I might not be able to do it until turn 4. Okay, so we draw Trencher and in the end phase we will detach Bullet Train to get Box back to our hand. With that we pass it to our opponent. All he does is set 5, which is honestly pretty scary, and I kinda expect like maybe TT, Needle Sealing, Ice Dragon Prison, Strike and maybe some Eldritch stuff. But before he goes to the end phase we of course want to revive Bullet Train, and in the end phase we will use Overdrive on Bullet Train not only to get Citadel online but also to get another sweet +1 of our Ancient Gearbox. So it's back to us. For turn we draw Heavy Forward, which is quite nice. We start our turn by summoning Fortress, which would give us enough damage to push for game. That's why our opponent decides to TT us here. Obviously we can chain Dora to protect himself and trigger Dairy, but he has the Ice Dragon Prison. He uses it on Dairy, which would stop Derry from triggering. So now I got two good options. I can either chain Overdrive in Grave to make Ice Dragon Prison fizzle, or I could also use Anger Knuckle to make Ice Dragon Prison fizzle. I decide for the second option because this allows me to still use my set Overdrive this turn. Now the chain resolves, we summon Derry, which makes Ice Dragon Prison fizzle, then the TT kills 3 of our monsters and Dora survives, of course. Next we use Drill and Box to go for the Ding play. I think we use Ding's send effect here, so he responds with a heavy Storm Duster. I was a little too quick on the trigger, I just expected him to target both of my spell and traps, that's why I go Chainlink to Overdrive. But in fact he pops his own chamber. So now we know he's on Unchained, pretty cool. New chain, he gets his Rakea on board and I get my Cruncher effect. I try to get another Cruncher just because once you get Fortress in Grave, every Cruncher is basically a free extender. Next we activate Heavy Forward to go for Dozer. Dozer summons Tunneler and we haven't even used Stormer yet, so we use him to get access to Harvester. Trencher then brings out the Harvester who nets us another Dozer. Here I kinda messed up with my zone placements because I summoned both Xyz in the Goliath zones. That's why I have to go neg 1 just to free up some space. Then I use Tunneler for 2 more free draws. Trap Trick is nice, but I doubt we will use it this game. Here I discard Cruncher to revive Fortress, but I don't know. I misclicked and I chose the wrong Machina monster. Just imagine this is Fortress, because as you know I have Fortress in Grave, and here I even treat the Citadel as Fortress because I go Harvester, target Fortress and make Slicer. With Slicer I can pop his Rakea and my own Ancient Gear Link. Now new chain, Citadel triggers Chainlink 1 and I got the Ash for Rakea, and that's just game. So, game 2. Our hand is not that good. No schedule, no back row removal. Instead we got double Trencher without any Infinitrack, which is just unfortunate because yeah, we only play 2 Trencher. So our opponent decides to go first. His hand also doesn't seem to be all that good either because he just goes for the Unchained Link, which is an interruption, but he only has 1 set card on top of that. For turn we draw Dozer. In our main one we immediately fire off the redeployment to get Fortress and Citadel. Fortress is absolutely mad in this situation because his Unchained Soul of Rage can only activate its effect in the main phase. So we can just summon Fortress, attempt to go to battle phase, and by that we not only force out the Unchained Soul, we also get to rip a card out of our opponent's hand with Fortress. After that we try to add one of our trains with Cruncher, but we miss them both. From this point I basically just go for the 1-card combo. The only difference is that I have Fortress to apply some more pressure. I also had a play line in my head where I would get to summon both Slicer and Citadel, but honestly there was nothing on board that I would want to pop, and Citadel is simply not that great against Unchained. So I just ended up going for the play that gathers the most resources. Off Tunneler I drew another Cruncher and Schedule. I mean, Cruncher is basically an extender because we already got access to Fortress, and lastly in the end phase we get back our boy. My opponent starts his turn by using Extravagance, which is nice, but I can stop his Unchained play with a well-timed Ice Dragon Prison, and he just sets a bunch of cards and passes it back. On my turn, he immediately uses D-Barrier to cut me off from using Xyz, but I already have game on board and there's literally no reason to play into TT, so I just go to battle phase and he scoops.
Alright, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed this little 1-card combo tutorial, and if you want to see more of machine stuff, more train stuff, more Machina stuff, more Infinitrack stuff, then yeah, drop a like, leave a sub. Also, we recently hit 420 subs, which is huge for me. Thank you guys so much for that. It's a huge milestone. Also, to all the people commenting under my videos, thanks for all the positivity. With that, until next time, see ya.